Why am I red? Am I supposed to be? Yeah, red means I'm live. All right, so we're live, and I'm going to, and I'm going to call our the South Kingstown School Building Committee meeting to order Thursday, March 6th at 6:02. And we will start with a roll call. Brian Sylvia.
Here.
Dave Palazetti.
Here.
Brian Mahoney. Here. Kate Massananti. I'm here. Luke Murray.
Here.
Bob Littlefield.
Here.
Chip McGarre.
Here.
Michael Pedraza.
Here.
Town Manager.
Here.
Manny. We have representatives from Gilbane, Studio Jade, and Slam in the room. And we will move along to public correspondence. We had a piece of public correspondence come in today from Jill O'Sullivan in reference to ensuring we have adequate parking for our high school seniors during construction. So that's something we want to make sure that we keep on our radar. And also, this I think is more for the town. She brought up there's a project in the works for Old Mount, kind of a we'll say design at Old Mountain Field, and her concern is that it may interrupt high school student parking for our juniors. I'm not sure, I don't think that falls within our purview, but just something to keep on the radar. I assured her, Dr. McGarre, that you do a really great job advocating for our students and our staff and around all those topics. So, but just to keep it front and center. Another piece of public correspondence came from our very own Mr. Brian Mahoney. And I shared it with the committee, and we'll share it with the public, that Mr. Mahoney will be moving on from his position with our school district. And I'm not sure exactly the date, but going forward, he's taking a new position. I don't know that we want to add it to this agenda, but we will need to add it to a future agenda as far as what that means to the makeup of this committee, because we will need whoever replaces Mr. Mahoney as our facilities director will need to sit at this table. But in the meantime, we have Mr. Mahoney will still be here with us. I don't know if you want to speak to it or if we just want to put it on a future agenda, but you're welcome to say a few words if you'd like.
No, I'll just kind of say what I said in my email. Just really proud to be part of this committee, proud to work for the school department for the last 6 years. It's been an amazing job, amazing people I work with, amazing, to work in the community. And I'd be happy to stay involved in any capacity going forward to help out. Thank you.
And what we'll do is we'll have this on the agenda at our next meeting so we can discuss the implications to the body and the project, if any. I believe that was all of our public correspondence that I am aware of. So we will move on to our new business item number 3, which is a discussion action around schedule recovery and the permitting process and status. The first part to this, this body will need to make a recommendation to the town council to authorize the town manager to sign state and local permitting and development review documents related to the construction of the proposed South Kingstown High School and athletic field. Luke, if you want to speak to this.
Yeah, so this came up as we're submitting the application for major land development review, because we have to go through the same process, right? Town doesn't get exempted from all the process. Building permits, all the things that we have to do a normal developer would do. So in speaking with council, not the town council, our solicitor, we bantered back and forth whether that should be school department or town, but it is town underlying property. And although care, custody, control is transferred over to the schools, we felt it appropriate to have one source that can sign all applications and whatnot under the town. So in speaking with the solicitor, they recommended that we get a vote from the council, resolution, basically an authorization to allow the town manager to sign on behalf of the project. So that way anything going forward, he can just sign and we have the council's blessing on it. So I have written a memo that'll be going to council Monday night in preparation for this, presumably that the committee's okay with this.
I spoke to the solicitor, Mike Ursillo, who you know, anytime you're putting a signature on where it's kind of town property, but yet we just basically give it back to the schools and so forth, so on who legally should be signing it. And it's his opinion, the town manager should be signing it, just so you know.
I appreciate that. Does anybody, basically what I would love to do is accept a motion to make this recommendation. Well, if it gets a second, and then we can have discussion if folks want to talk about it before we
I'll
vote.
make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Chip. So with the motion on the table and the second, do we have any discussion about this recommendation to council? No, okay. So in understanding what Luke and Jim just shared, I will call for a vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So that passes. Thank you. And item number 2, a discussion around fire review and permitting fees. Luke also.
So it has not yet been resolved, but once again, when I spoke to the solicitor, Mike Rosillo, who's been in contact with the legal counsel for Union Fire District, I guess what was holding this up is they don't have a set of plans to review to say what could be charged, should be charged, not be charged. I want to emphasize the Union Fire District is not, they're not playing games, and they're not trying to use leverage or anything. It's just, I think there's the process that has to go through with their Board of Wardens. So speaking to Luke, the recommendation would be get them a set of plans and let them review it, and then they can come back to us and let the solicitor and legal counsel for Unified District just work it out. And at a minimum, one of the recommendations, we hire an outside person to do this. That would be a lesser cost, of course. We do need some review done, but, you know, take the Unified District rate out of it. They don't have the bandwidth to do the entire thing anyway.
Yeah, so, and along those lines, I would just ask the left field and Jade Slam team, once we dial in the final floor plan, sooner than later, get us a preliminary set of plans so we can get it over to UFD. I know we've been playing a little bit with the square footages, and usually that's what it's based on. So we'll have to dial it in until you say we're there, and that way they can get an idea of what the fees would be.
Do we have when will we be able to, I guess my question is twofold. When will we be able to kind of dial into what Luke just requested? And also, is there an urgency to this particular part of the process that we want it sooner rather than later? And what is the process, I guess? I want to just make sure that we do what we need to do in order to get this piece over the finish line.
Thank you. How about now? Okay. So we did have an introductory meeting with the Union Fire District when we did our SD page turns. As you guys know, a lot of changes have happened since then. So the official DD set is going to be issued in April. We can have an interim review with them. We just want to make sure we're, respectful of their time and have kind of a final floor plan and square footage identified before we review that with them. But the intent was to sit and review with them after the DD set was issued. If we need to do it sooner, just let us know. We can do that.
Do you guys need action from this committee?
No, I think that timetable works, as you well know, like, we won't be at actual permit stage for a while, so we'll be well in advance. Just be mindful that the process to take it through UFD and the board could take a couple months, so just as soon as possible.
Do you guys need anything from us other than,
No, I think at that time, too, we'll look to start soliciting third-party reviewers, so we can do a third-party code review on their behalf, and we do similar for building departments if the building department requests that service as well, so we can start soliciting that as we start our construction documents phase.
okay. Before you leave the podium, do we have any other updates or status around this permitting topic at all, as far as you guys are concerned?
No, other than we do anticipate a pre-application hearing with the planning board on the 11th, pending we're able to get the application signed.
Meaning this coming 11th, coming up?
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so then that brings us to new business item number 4, discussion action commissioning agent recommendation to the town. Who wants to start off, take lead on this one?
I'll start. So at our last meeting, we had presented the bid results for commissioning agent. We did have our low bidder, and then we kind of recalculated our qualifications-based scoring, and it changed up the order of points. So what we did was go back, call references, check references. We got great stellar references from Catalyst. One reference in particular that stood out was from UPenn that says the commissioning agent for Catalyst, they do their it is a very sensitive BioLab 3 that deals with significant hazards, and if these commissioning agents didn't do a good job, it would be hazardous to people's health. So she had a tremendous review for them. A lot of other universities, Brown, Tufts, that had worked with them before, all had stellar reviews for Catalyst. I did have a call with the owner asking about their proposal, letting them know, you guys were lower. Is there anything that we're missing? We went through the scope of work. He did confirm that they are carrying the entire scope of work, and they were very aggressive with their proposal because this is a market they're trying to break into. So the highest score for qualifications not considering price was Stephen Turner. Stephen Turner also got great recommendations when we checked references, a lot of repeat business. He is the Rhode Island school guy. He is, that is his bread and butter, Rhode Island schools and K-12 facilities in general. But he is almost $100,000 higher in cost as well. So I think both firms are equally qualified to do the work. Our recommendation after we've reviewed the references with the selection committee was to stick with our original recommendation of Catalyst.
Does anybody have any questions for this part of the process?
No questions, but thank you for going through that process and really vetting them. I appreciate that.
So now in order to move forward, we do need a recommendation from this body to the town council to move forward with recommending Catalyst as the commissioning agent.
I'll make a motion to recommend Catalyst as our commissioning agent.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that motion passes, so we will make a recommendation to our town council to move forward with Catalyst. Thank you for doing that.
So that'll be on Monday's meeting. I'll have it's already on the agenda in general, but the memo will go in tomorrow with the final selection.
If there's any other documentation you need, just let me know.
Okay.
That brings us to new business item number 5, discussion only on design development or DD update.
Good evening, Jeff Bento from SLAM. So we're in the process of continuing to develop the exterior design. based on the perspectives that we showed last week and how that was well received, we now understand the flavor of the design that this committee likes. So we're taking that language and continuing to develop around the building. So the building is big. There's a lot of facade to the building. So we're not at a point right now where we can show progress, but we will be by the next school building committee meeting, which I believe is in 2 weeks. So at that point, we can show updates for the rest of the facade of the building. In terms of interiors, floor plan development, today, Kathy and Brittany from my office, Brittany's interior designer, they met with the end users at the school staff and teachers to discuss functionality of the spaces. We did this process before, but we also do it in design development to get a further understanding of how the spaces will function and what the requirements are for each of their spaces and how they're intended to be used. So there was a round of user group meetings today. There will be another round tomorrow. And I believe Chip was in and out of those meetings as well. I didn't attend the meetings, but from what Kathy had told me, that it went really well and everyone seems to be happy with the spaces. Chip, I don't know if you want to continue.
Yeah, so I spent most of the day in because I just wanted to listen a lot today, clarify things where they needed to be clarified, because sometimes that helps. So it was a really good day today. We moved a few things around in a minor way. Everything seemed like it, a wall here or a door there, renaming of some spaces so that they're more accurate to what they will be used for. So I think listening to people today, we started to have conversations about furniture, but more of it today was about the actual physical space, and storage came up very, very often, which is good that people are thinking about that, because we don't want to build a beautiful new building with no storage. And then tomorrow we have another round of it, so plan to sit in on that as well. But it was overall, I really appreciate the time and input that our staff gave today, and for the team to be there to listen.
So we'll take that information that we learned today, we'll take the information that we learned tomorrow, we'll incorporate it into the floor plans, and we'll continue to develop those. There was one major feedback point that we got from the last meeting, and that was when we showed the floor plans, we had the media center on the 3rd floor of the L-shaped academic tower. We moved that down to the 2nd floor so that it's more centrally located. We feel that that's a better move, so now it'll overlook the cafeteria space, which is what we had in the previous scheme in the SD. So that's one move that we made, and that you'll see when you see the updated floor plans.
And that did look good, seeing that today. So I thought that was a good move, and overlooking the cafeteria will be nice.
So we do have a site plan to show. It's been a little while since we've showed a site plan to this committee. So this is the site plan that was also issued as part of that pre-application submission, in which the hearing will be next Tuesday. So there's 3 major, so overall, everything is located in the same spot that it was before on the site. The building's located and oriented in the same location. We have student parking north of the building. We have staff parking to the east side of the building, and we have visitor parking along the southern part of the building off of School Street. The 3 key major differences would be, the first one, our building footprint is different. We reduced the square footage based on where we were for schematic design. So the building's been reduced, it's been compressed. Mark Rhodes mentioned at the last school building committee meeting that we're able to reduce the slab on grade square footage by about 3,000 square feet. And also the overall square footage has been reduced as well, following the VE, or value management process, that we went through. So that's one. 2, when we submitted the site plan for schematic design, we had bus drop-off located along the drive lane on the northern side of the new school building and parent drop-off on the southern side of the school building. Now understanding that there's approximately 200 parents who drop off students in the morning, and I believe only 5 or so buses that drop off students in the morning, we feel it's more appropriate to have the bus drop-off designated to that front drive lane that's accessed off of School Street, and have the parent drop-off along that northern drive lane, because there's more length of that drive lane, so more parents can queue up into the site, and that would be less drivers on the neighboring streets. So that's the second key difference. The third key difference is we provided another access point from Columbia Street on the left-hand side to access that student parking lot. Previously, we just had one access point from Columbia Street, but looking at that further, we feel that adding another access point further up the plan would alleviate congestion that would happen off of that access point, where parents and students coming into the school or parking within the school, they won't be congested in that area. So we believe that'll alleviate that congestion there. So going a little bit further, talking about the site plan, we still have the community practice fields that's highlighted in green on the northern part of the site. Our civil engineer started to incorporate areas for bioretention, since that was one of the big value management items, was to target 50% of stormwater management to above grade retention, and the other half would be below grade stormwater retention. So there's, I believe, 4 locations. Those are the 2 major spots along Columbia Street, and that's where the previous parking lot was before. And there's 2 other smaller locations on the east boundary of the site down below, on the right-hand side of that staff parking lot. So we have student parking on the northern side of that parent drop-off drive lane, that could also be utilized for community parking. If there's events at the gym or the auditorium, they can utilize that parking lot. There's staff parking along the right-hand side there. We have a construction tech courtyard, which would be fenced off between that little, yep, exactly, right there. So there'll be an overhead door from the CTE space that can access that courtyard to store materials, and it will be secured off from the rest of the site. We have a small mechanical yard a little bit to the left of where that fitness room bump out is. So the mechanical system being used on this project, we're gonna need an outdoor chiller unit, which is gonna be a pretty big size. So that'll be right outside of the mechanical room there, where we have the mechanical room and the kitchen space in that area. And that'll be fenced off and screened with vegetation, because it can be kind of noisy, so we don't want any noise bustling out. The vegetation will help buffer that noise and also screen it off, because I don't think we want to look at a outdoor mechanical unit in that area. And then we have the outdoor learning area to the left of that. That'll be that central hub between the new school and the Hazard building, as we know that we want to maintain a connection between those 2 buildings right there. And then as you go further down the plan, we have the visitor parking off of School Street. The existing parking lot for the Hazard building, that'll just be repaved and resurfaced. It's going to be shortened a little bit because our academic tower will have to be constructed where that existing part of the parking lot is for the Hazard building. So that'll be shortened a little bit with a new curb cut off of School Street. And then further to the right, we have the main entrance to the building with visitor parking and the bus drop-off, as I illustrated. And then we also provided a loading dock on the east side of the building there, a little bit further up. So that'll be allocated for larger deliveries. We still intend to have an access point to the kitchen for smaller deliveries, but if there's any bigger deliveries that need to be made, we do have a loading dock for that use. And as Mark Rhodes illustrated a couple of weeks ago, we aligned the vestibules, the front vestibule and that back vestibule, so students who are coming in from the bus drop-off and students coming in from the parent drop-off, they enter the school and there can be one control point within the school because they're entering the building in the same location just from opposite ends. So that's the intent for that. And that's all I got. If anyone has any questions or
A couple of questions. Number one is, and first, thank you. Like this really looks really good, and I appreciate all the level of detail. First one is, so I see where staff parking is. Where would they enter the building, ideally?
we do have an access door right next to that loading dock. So there will be a vestibule there. Looking at the floor plan, which I don't have right now, but there is a long corridor that runs from east to west along the building. So that corridor terminates right next to that loading dock. So there'll be a set of doors there.
Okay, so that would be the ideal place. All right, so
Yeah.
then when they're crossing over that area there, that may, just thinking out loud, that may be where we actually need the, like someone to help with crossing. Right now we have that for the students and staff coming in the front. That might actually be the spot because some people may be so excited that they've deposited their children at the school. They may accelerate a little too quickly there, but so I just want to keep that. The other part is that outdoor learning area. Is that where we're thinking that the greenhouse may go?
Somewhere in that area, yes. So we don't want to place it right to the west side of that academic tower because it'll block a lot of the sun. That tower is just going to be, it's 3 stories tall. But somewhere in that outdoor learning area, we can allocate a space for that greenhouse.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Can I ask, can we zoom out towards the entrance, please? I just have a question about the drainage area. Is that just in terms of schematics, or is there a reason that it's designed so close to the road and a main entrance, and not, or is that dashed the property line? Because I see most of the other ones away from the building and as a central point of entry, as well as a recovering principal who had Avenger Lake.
To follow up on his question, when we say these drainage areas, can we get clarification? I don't think it's going to be a pond, correct? It's not like a retention pond.
Right. It's a depression in the grade for any stormwater retention for large rain events. So it'll infiltrate into the ground, but ideally, there won't be any standing water for a period of time where it becomes a pond issue. But in terms of the placement on the site, so there's really no other great spots for it. So what you don't see here is there is a significant grade drop between where the community fields are going to be and then down towards Columbia Street. So we need them located at lower spots because that's just, drainage happens that way. And that's where the existing parking lots were before. So that's the low point. And there's really no other good spots for it based on where we're placing the building, where we want student/community parking, and then the other parking areas around the building.
Yeah. And that's why towards what would be on what I'm looking at is south on the diagram, which I don't believe is south, but where the bus entry is the closest to the building, where others are off parking lots. So I just wasn't sure if there was a rationale for the one to the lower, that one. If there was a rationale as to the placement of that one, considering as a major point of entry and exit to the new facilities. Thank you.
To be honest, I don't know for certain about that location. I'll have to talk with Sam, who's our civil engineer. but I think he just saw that as another opportunity for just putting a retention pond in that area, and there is a substantial grading issue in that area as well, because you'll be ramping up to the site from School Street, because that's another low point.
Are these simply depressions? They're not, there's no need for them to be enclosed, is there?
I don't believe so. No, they're just depressions.
Just depressions in the,
Yep.
in the grade, so
Yep.
I'm just envisioning fence around these areas, and that would spoil our look.
So these basins have special soil composition and mixtures to absorb the water. Typically, after a heavy rain event, you could see water in there for about 24 hours. Some municipalities have considered putting a fence around them to prevent someone from accidentally drowning in these little retention basins. However, their depth is not great. So then they were concerned about someone who may be walking their dog, etc. So I have not seen any municipalities actually do the fencing, although it was discussed.
So at a previous meeting, we talked about these, and is it just strictly an open depression, or I know there was discussion about vegetation, plantings, things like that, so it's not necessarily just this big open tub?
Correct.
Theory.
There are plantings, special plantings that start to grow in these basins. They do need to be maintained after a period of time. And in talking with the site civil engineer, there's still an extent of underground drainage here as well. So as they're working through the calculations, as we're working with the estimates, it may be decided that maybe that one that is at that entrance moves to an underground storage, and that one goes away, and the budget can absorb that because either it's not needed or can be managed underground in a cost-effective manner. So regarding the drainage, we expect to hear more about this during our pre-application hearing as we're going through the process and as Garofalo is, calculating the amount of stormwater runoff, et cetera.
And you mentioned today that you and Garofalo are going to be at that meeting on the 11th when this is being reviewed by the town. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. One final question I have is, and my understanding is that drain area as it sits right now and that entrance, if I'm not mistaken, that abuts there's a little apartment house there and parking lot. I believe that's exactly where that would abut. I'm assuming that's being taken into account in the planning and...
Yeah, we certainly cannot discharge our rainwater on someone else's property. So it's all contained within our parcels. The only thing I can add to this, Jeff did a great job. I can talk about parking for a second. You currently have approximately 356 spaces. That's current. The proposed, in this configuration at least, is going to be 372 spaces. Sure. Existing, current, 356. Proposed, 372. Now,
The student spots, just out of curiosity, like in our current lot, they're very tight. Are these more standardized for cars of today?
I'll have to check. Right. This is a question we can easily find out the answer. I don't want to give you false information.
That's a great question, though. I don't know if you've parked behind our school, especially, I don't know how the students do it without smashing into each other regularly.
Something in the water that makes SK kids really good drivers. Yeah.
It's got to be, because it's scary as a veteran driver.
I do want to highlight something. Currently, there are 69 spaces in front of Hazard. During construction, we should anticipate that you will lose about half of those to the temporary road that that Gilbane is going to be putting in. So currently, there are 69. You'll lose about half during construction in that area only. And Mark can certainly talk to how they'll be managing construction activities and vehicles, which I would anticipate are all going to be enclosed within the site.
So the existing parking lot behind the high school right now during construction won't be disturbed as far as the students being able to park there and...
Yes, that's correct, Kate. The existing parking for the students behind the existing gym area, that'll all remain the same. All parking in the front of the school will all remain the same. The only thing that we're going to impact, as Phil just mentioned, is just the area in front of Hazard, where we have to cut the new entrance in and then continue on with a revised loop for the buses.
I think another piece of concern with community members is where the workers are going to park, and will they take up parking for the high school?
So no, the workers are all going to be contained within our fenced-in construction area. So all the field trailers, all the parking, lay-down storage, all of that will be within our fenced-in construction area.
Does anybody else have any questions? It doesn't have to just be about parking, but...
Just to make a comment, there is space in the rear lot to add spaces when Hazard does come offline, with taking 30 spaces. There's some room to the side, the gym side of the theater lot, the gym side of the lot that could have added spaces. We have a shed that eventually will be coming down that's of no use anymore, which could add 5 to 8 spaces. So there is flexibility in that rear lot to add parking for teachers or whoever needs to park at the Hazard side.
And from my recollection, it's been a while since I've parked there or driven up there during a school day. It's not a full lot, right? The senior lot's not full.
No.
All right.
That's a good picture right there, Luke. So that kind of gives you an idea of what it'll look like in the beginning. So you can see how Hazard has been cut back from east to west. And we've continued on with that new access loop for the buses, coming right out of the revised layout of that parking lot. And then throughout that drawing off to the right, you'll see construction parking and lay-down areas and other lay-down areas. And that will be self-contained within our fence line. Yeah, student parking is up at the top, untouched in yellow. And again, the parking off to the front of the building as well, that's all untouched.
I just had one more parking idea that came up is the possibility of putting, it's not technically a school project, but 4 or 5 spots along either Kimball Street or on the far end of the retention for public parking. We are currently seeing at some of our elementary and the middle school a lot of visitation during the day by people wanting to use the facilities. And we don't have shut down campuses like some districts do, but I think it would help mitigate some of the intermingling with the students and public members that want to come on site or walk their dogs or bring kids to play on the fields. So if that's a possibility down the road.
Yeah, we can certainly look into that as we progress.
Just a couple things. So we're also going to lose about a dozen spots along the new bus loop, right? During the construction. It's not a big deal. There's certainly plenty of spots within the front lot, but we're going to keep that whole loop clear for buses, correct?
Correct.
So it's 10 to 12 people that park there. So and there's spots in there, but I just wanted to be clear about that
Yep.
we will also lose those too, but it's not a huge deal, but we will.
Correct.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. And the second thing was, based on the timeline, are we looking at having this in place, this new road in place for the start of next school year? The reason I'm asking is that it would certainly be easier to train people with this new arrival and pickup situation if the road and the buses were coming in the front and parents were dropping off along the side, basically the flip. I'm not speaking very well because of the time of day, but basically this flip-flop where the buses and the parents go, if that could be in place by the start of next school year, that part of it, it certainly would be helpful, because then I don't have to like do a shift in October or November or something like that.
I think as we progress with the schedule, I mean, hopefully, ideally, that would be the game plan. You know, if we're working our way towards getting going in the summer, then that was going to be our first piece of business while everybody was gone, was to redo the hazard lot and create that loop. Short of that, you know, if we were to have to come in during the summer just to do that and then go away for a while and then have to come back later to continue on with the project, obviously that may have some impact to cost and whatnot, but it's certainly on the table.
Does anybody else have any other questions about anything that they've gone over? It doesn't have to necessarily be about parking.
So first, thank you for the media center, because I think it was a good choice, obviously. But I think it'll ultimately be, as you said, on the second level, more accessible. I'm glad storage was talked about. I will just share that my son's been searching around high schools, and he went to Exeter West Greenwich, and they had stuff everywhere. And the teacher said, we have a lack of storage here. And it really turned my wife and my son off to the entire school, because there was just stuff packed in the classrooms. And that also goes to the theater, because I've dealt with theater programs. Typically they have Connex boxes full of props and stuff. So I just hope that I know every square foot comes with a premium, but at least if we have accommodation outdoors next to that loading dock, where we could put a Connex box or some type of storage solution for those props, because I know that becomes an issue. As far as the swales and whatnot, I know the planning board's gonna weigh in, I'm certain, on landscape and exterior, so to be continued. My only ask was keep us involved in that decision, because I do think it could be a maintenance issue. You know, plantings in the basin is great, but that also collects trash and becomes a maintenance hazard. Mowing's fine, but that's not as eco-friendly, and there's all different designs you can do. But just to note, we have, just for the group and the public, we currently have swales in front of Hazard now. That was all part of the High Street project, as well as in back of the school. So if you want to see how these things function, they're functioning now in front of Hazard. So, and those are just cut grass. I don't think, have you had any issues with those?
Not any major. Again, they haven't really built up with trash because they're far enough off the road, and they're the rear ones abut neighbors' properties. No, they've grown. We cut them back, and they've never filled with water. They've never had standing water for very long, and those have been low maintenance in my 6 years.
So I've also had nightmare applications. They had Oakland Beach, which they built a bunch of swales and they got stagnated. They became a real hazard. So they can be built in different ways. I just want to make sure that we know what we're getting before it goes in, so we don't have something like that. But thank you for your work, your continued work on this.
I'm just going to hammer for the third person down the line of storage being key. We have Wakefield School, which is offline and currently is getting emptied. We have Curtis Corner, which very soon here, eventually will be demoed, and we can use it for storage for the time being. We have my maintenance facility that has some storage. With those two sites coming offline, and our middle school, unfortunately, was built with limited to no storage. We have theater department's a good example. We have some theater props in 3 separate buildings that are just belong to Broad Rock. So I think storage is key. Efficient storage, people shouldn't be hoarding, but storage is definitely needed to be there.
And if I'm not mistaken, Chip, the music and theater department, they're part of these conversations. Has that happened with them yet, or is that tomorrow?
So tomorrow, yes, but it has definitely been ongoing.
That's what
So,
I
yes.
assumed.
Yeah, so both.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for these folks on this particular topic, being DD update? All right. That brings us to new business item number 6, discussion, RIDE, schematic design and submission status.
Thank you. So I think, as we reported at our last meeting, the SD submission was sent into RIDE. have to go back again, that time of day. I don't remember exactly what day it was sent in. But we did receive correspondence this week back from RIDE requesting a follow-up meeting. So we've scheduled that for the 12th of this month, and we'll be involving Chip and Mike and Gilbane in that as well. They were not in the initial meeting, but having them there will help discuss the educational programming components that we have, our delivery method. We'll be talking more about our budget, how we value engineered the project, just going into more detail with RIDE regarding our SD submission. They did have a list of items that they requested. Phil's team is in the process of compiling all of those, and I think by the end of this week, early next week, we'll be able to send that in so they have enough time to review all the documentation before our meeting next Thursday. Anything else you want to add, Phil?
No, I think the only thing I'll add is that it is important to have all the subject matter experts at this meeting, especially ones with those with authority to comment on educational programming and the town's position on any particular topic, as well as the school committees. That will help us move the conversation along and focus in on some real impactful things as opposed to just talking about some things that can easily be addressed.
And these meetings are part of the process, and I'm assuming they will be ongoing through the project, depending on phase and stage.
Yeah, we'll continue to review the progress of the project with RIDE as we go forward. So similar to what we did before we submit our SD submission, we'll have a DD review meeting with them prior to our DD submission. If they request any additional meetings in the interim, we're happy to host those as well.
Perfect. And did the 12th from, what was it, 1 o'clock, 1 to 3 or something like that?
Yeah, we booked it for
solidified?
1 to 3. Everybody from RIDE confirmed their availability for that. We're in good shape. I think everybody's RSVP'd yes to that one.
Great. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about this particular agenda item for anybody on the project team? Okay. Brings us to new business item number 7, discussion action, phase 2 environmental survey, contract award recommendation.
So we're actually going to request to table this item. We did receive a quote for the phase 2 environmental site investigation from Ty and Bond. We felt that it was very heavy. So we're asking for a review with our civil engineering team to look at where we can pare it down. We've also started soliciting additional pricing off the master price agreement through the state to try and get a little bit more competition. The proposal from Ty and Bond was much higher than we had expected it to be for the scope that was outlined as part of the phase 1.
So tabling this to the next school building committee meeting, or do you have a particular date in mind?
I think the next school building committee meeting should be fine.
Yeah, you said you're going off MPA, so
Yes.
we expect to have the proposals?
I'll have to check with Chris when he expects to get those back.
So Ty and Bond did a pretty good job, but they had to get pushed at the final hour to get the reports in, so that was an area of concern. Then we got the pricing back, that was another area of concern, so I requested that we get additional pricing and that we fully vet our options on this one. When we did the original phase 1, phase 2, remind me, I think we had four proposals total off the original RFQ. So that's the other thing we could do is go back to those, if they're on the MPA, go back to, or even not, we can go back to the original RFQ that we did, and depending on the rankings, and see if we can get some other proposals. So.
Yes, and I think the scope of work they identified, we can pare down significantly. So I think we can also get Ty and Bond's number down. I think they put a pretty big number out there that we can peel back pretty significantly.
Can you just review where we're at with the phase 1, why we're doing the phase 2?
Absolutely. So the phase 1 environmental site assessment really is an information collecting exercise, and it identifies the history of the site. It looks through any potential hazards. What was the site used for originally? Are there any historical records or agricultural records that we need to know about, and it identifies potential risks for any hazardous conditions that may be within the site. So there were a few areas that they needed additional information. There was an auto body shop. They want to make sure there were no, leaky oil pans from the auto body shop. We do have full tank closure reports for all of the underground oil tanks. That's usually one of the big tickets. Thankfully, we do have tank closure reports. They did recommend additional borings just to confirm testing groundwater and testing the soil around the areas that the underground storage tanks were. So it's very typical. Anything that they don't have finite information on, right, or they see something, they're like, oh, that could be something they want to do additional investigations for. So it's very typical after you get a phase 1 assessment, which is the historical review, that they say we want to take some ground samples just to be sure and make sure that we have documentation of what we're exporting from the site or what we're keeping on the site.
And this is for both pieces of property where the current high school sits and where Hazard Field, if like the entire, because we're flipping them, so they're looking for samples from both areas.
That's correct.
As well as Curtis Corner, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought that's what you were asking,
No,
Kate. Yes,
it might be two separate things.
Yes,
but I'm
the
just saying,
entire
in
site of
addition
the
to
high
Curtis
school,
Corner.
including where the building sits, plus where the field is, and the Curtis Corner site.
Anybody else have any questions on this? So what I'll need is a motion to table this to our next meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then that passes. That will be tabled to our, I like to put a date on it, our very next school building committee meeting on March 20th. All right. New business item number 8, discussion Curtis Corner Athletic Fields update.
So we did receive, based on the design that Phil presented several meetings ago, we did receive some initial estimate information from Gilbane. What we've done since then, we've had a few meetings to look at these plans that you can see kind of broken into these several different buckets to identify within our $11 million budget where those buckets fall. So we've asked Gilbane to go back and reorganize their estimate to look at the track field concession stand in green, the demolition and field reestablishment of the existing middle school building. We've asked for a separate breakout of the field house that's being proposed as a remaining section of the existing middle school, and then the remaining site improvements around the existing admin building, tennis courts, everything you see in blue, plus that roadway, the new roadway that leads through there as an additional bucket. So we're going to come back with kind of where each of those items falls within the $11 million, and then can take a look at prioritization, phasing, how we want to approach moving forward with the project.
Does anybody have any questions about what we're looking at or what Kate just explained?
And Gilbane will have revised numbers to us by tomorrow, so we will be ready. All of that will be vetted by the next building committee meeting. We're happy to provide an update on those costs.
All right. No questions on that. So that brings us to community comment. No comments from the community? I just thought you were here to help, Dorald. I just thought you were here to help.
Doral Beasley. So I need to end this rumor that I've heard over in the last 10 days that there's something I missed with the hazard school field transfer. Or is that just a rumor that we can just squash? Nothing's going wrong with that, right?
You're talking about the land swap situation? To my knowledge, that is there an issue? There's some sort of rumor floating around the community that there's an issue with the
land
hazard
swap.
If there's an issue, I know nothing of it. I'm the one working on it. I can tell you unequivocally, we're moving ahead. The appraisal's in progress.
Love it. Okay. Let me just start with those, the water retention areas there. So you said that those would take care of 50% of the runoff from the site. So the other 50% is going to be in underground storage. All right. So the reason I'm bringing this up is for a couple reasons. If you ever driven on Robinson Street, there's a retention pond just as you make the sharp corner when you come around where you're going to like Belmont or going to the post office. There's a retention pond. I don't know how well it was created when it was first built. I'm assuming it was done right. It was part of the bike path. So when you go by there today, what that is a mud pit. Now that's because over time, the silts from the ground, surrounding higher ground, and stuff coming off the sidewalk, and snow plows, salts, and everything else have kind of like turned that into something that doesn't really work. It works, but it's slow. But when it doesn't have water in it, it's pretty ugly, especially this time of year. Now there are some subdivisions on South Road that my wife and I walk through that have these retention ponds, and they have never been maintained. And when you look at them, they're like trees. There are trees growing in them, absolute 30-foot trees now. And right on the Department of Transportation said if and when they ever do the 138 reconstruction, that they're going to be putting these retention ponds at the bottom of Kingston Hill down by Peckham Farm. And they said, we're going to have these lovely grasses and, phragmites and plantings and blah, 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 blah. That's great, but if they're not maintained, they turn into crap. Now, about 500, I don't think it's 500, but 300 to 500 feet west of the site is the Saugatuck River. Now, the Saugatuck River is polluted. It's polluted from the weeping runoff from the old landfill. After the landfill was capped, there were certain parts of the landfill, like for the large. There was an area where they would put refrigerators and all that stuff, and all the liquids and the acids and everything from all these things were leaching into the ground, and they ended up in the river. So I don't believe it stopped it. I don't know if you can even catch fish in the Saugatuck River. I may be wrong about all this, but if it was possible to divert this water into the Saugatuck River, if it was filtered, some way you would filter it before it went into the river, it seems like it might be a better solution. I don't know if it's possible to put something to put out there. Okay, so let's get to the thing I handed out. Here's my concern today. You don't have an accurate cost estimate. The latest cost estimate you have for this project was done by Gilbane last November, and they did the best they could. Okay, this has been a moving target since day one. It's been 143,000, 161,000, now we're down to 100, it was 155,000, now we're down to 153,000, so it's moving. But the problem is that I see is you still don't have an accurate estimate. And it's my belief that if you wait until May, they said the next estimate you're going to get is May. We don't know if it's the 1st of May or the 31st of May. But if you wait till May, it could be 6 months. That would be 6 months since the prior estimate was done. Now, there's some issues with the prior estimate if you turn over that page. The biggest of which is they show 25% for soft costs, and like I mentioned, I mentioned at the town council meeting, that's capped by right at 20%. Now, and they have showed like $20,000 $20 million for Curtis Corner when you capped it at 11. So there are things in here that should be fixed. And it's also for 161,000 square foot building. So you're like 8,000 square feet less now. So I would ask, I'm suggesting that you ask your contractor to come up with a new estimate for you for one main reason. So since when they did their estimate there on the 7th of October, I believe that was 1 or 2 days after the election, Donald Trump is now the president. Things are changing by the minute. This morning he had an unscheduled cabinet meeting with his cabinet secretaries, and he told them that they are in charge of who they want to have reduced from their departments. They're the ones that they're going to decide who the people are going to keep. They're going to keep and not keep. So maybe that's because there's over 200 lawsuits now against all this rigmarole with Doge, but we don't know. You know, we don't know from day to day what's going on. They just took off another 30-day hold up on the tariffs for Mexico and Canada. But all these things may or may at some point affect this project. Cost of steel, number one, and that's why I was sending you over the last year all this information on mass timber, because mass timber is an alternate construction method that can be incorporated into your school. If it's from what I've read, it's faster. The construction using mass timber is faster. Faster seems to me would be cheaper, but I don't know, again, the availability. I sent you the thing about South County Post and Beam. They did all the mass timber for a school in New York State. I hope you looked at it. But I haven't heard anything from this committee or from our consultants about mass timber. I haven't seen hide nor hair of the sustainability subcommittee recently. I'm hoping it's because they're not discouraged about how this project has proceeded with sustainability. I thought we were in good shape there for a while, but I'm not so sure now. So anyway, so I suggest to you, and I also sent this to the town council, so I hope they'll read it. I'm suggesting you to ask the Gilbank Corporation to come up with a new estimate for you. Obviously, it's going to change between now and June, but at least you'll have one with the right numbers. And in regards to the what they have for contingency and escalation, you know, between when the election ended and now today, maybe all that money in those two categories, because of what's happened with costs, maybe some of that is already, maybe they would just say, well, we've already used up some of that. So you really need to know you really need to know the numbers. Almost done. Oh, yeah. So I went to the South Kingstown playoff game against East Greenwich basketball, boys basketball. At halftime, it was 36-18 in favor of South Kingstown, and I was sitting next to my friend from, he was on the, Brad Webster, he was on the South Kingstown, one of the 3 state championship teams back in the 60s. And I said, gee, East Greenwich doesn't look like they even belong in the same court as South Kingstown. And then after halftime, they went on an 18-2 run, and then went into overtime, and South Kingstown lost by a single point. Luckily, they're still in the Open State tournament starts tomorrow. But I parked in Hazard, and then I walked across the Hazard field to go into the gym, and what I walked through was a giant field of goose dew. Goose dew, okay? Now, that's another thing you don't want in your retention ponds. There's 2 retention ponds up by, there's 1 retention pond by East Farm off of 108 that the geese they live in it. It's green, it's disgusting. Okay, last thing. The investment tax credits still live today. There we go. Sorry. My hand doesn't work very well. It's going to take me about 1 minute to read this. Trump's executive orders don't impact clean energy tax incentives. President Trump's second term has introduced uncertainty into the clean energy landscape, particularly regarding tax incentives. While his Unleashing the American Energy executive order calls for an immediate pause on clean energy-related federal disbursements, a subsequent memo has clarified that it does not impact energy tax incentive credits, a key distinction for businesses planning clean energy investments. The executive order specifically targets the funding under the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, with particular focus on electric vehicle charging. Programs affected including the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula Program and Charging and Fueling Grant Program. While existing tax credits remain intact now, future actions, whether through acts of Congress or the Treasury, could impact their implementation. But slim margins in Congress and the scale of the existing incentives, major legislative changes appear unlikely. Additionally, while the U.S. Treasury has authority to interpret and administer laws, it cannot unilaterally revoke or modify statutory tax credits. So, if you'd used geothermal energy, you could have gotten 30 to 40% back.
Thank you, Doral. Kate, do you mind coming on up and speaking to, I'm trying to remember which topic. Design estimate, thank you.
Yes, happy to. Thank you. Yes, I can go through a couple of the points from Doral's note. Regarding doing an interim estimate, it is the way that these projects run, that an estimate is done at the completion of each design phase. And that is done because it is a pretty long break in order to do these estimates. It's a minimum of 30 days for the construction manager to do their estimate, as well as our third-party estimator, and then several weeks to do reconciliations where we're reviewing those numbers, making sure everything is correct. In order to do that, the design team does need to issue and publish a set of documents. Without having a complete set of design development documents, we will not get an accurate estimate. It will be a pause in the project that will delay us further. So the way that we're moving forward is not blindly, but very much in line with the value engineering numbers that were estimated and established at the end of SD. So those numbers are being designed too. So it's a target value design. The design team has their goal, and that is what they are designing to. Each phase is a checkpoint. It is a pause and a checkpoint to make sure we're going in the right direction. However, if we were to do that several times during the design phase, our designers would not be able to finish their design, and it would delay us significantly. So as the designers move forward, they're in constant communication with Gilbane regarding cost data for the updates that they're making to their drawings. As far as the SD submission to RIDE, we are required to submit the schematic design set. We do not go back and change the schematic design set following value engineering. Those changes get incorporated into the next set of design development documents. So everything that has been posted is based on the schematic design set that was issued, and the next set will reflect the changes, such as the lower square footage numbers. Then that estimate will be based on that. Those revised drawings will be submitted to RIDE and then available for public review after the submission to the state.
Thank you. Can you speak to the soft cost percentage?
Yes.
Please?
Doral, I'm not sure how you got the 25. I'd love to walk through with you what numbers you're holding into that. But our soft costs are not within the Gilbane estimate. Everything in this number is considered a hard cost from the state. So their soft costs, what they associate soft costs is professional fees and expenses and things that are paid for directly by the owner. So all of these additional numbers that are included, the contingencies, insurance, permit fees, general conditions, all of the Gilbane costs are considered to be a hard cost with the state. So they don't calculate that into the 20%.
Okay.
So we are within the 20% soft cost limit when we look at owner expenses as part of our full budget in addition to the construction budget. And then Curtis Corner. Yeah, again, Curtis Corner is capped at $11 million, and we're working within the latest cost data from Gilbane to put together those budgets to show the $11 million budget and the work that'll be able to be performed within it. And that'll be the next meeting.
Great, thank you. Thank you for those clarifying points. That brings us to business item number 10. You got 30 seconds because I'm hungry. I haven't eaten dinner yet.
Me too, and I got to get back to the why before they close. All right, so, don't I look buff? The media center. So when I saw the change, but what I saw to me was an opportunity to have a 2-level media center. I'm serious.
That would cost
Hold
more
on.
money, Doral.
I know. Hold on.
Wait a minute. You know?
You've already got the third floor there. Okay. If you just raise the roof, then you have a second, just over the media center. It's already there.
Doral, you telling us about increasing costs and you want to raise the roof on us?
Doral, there's program space on the third floor. All we did was take what was on the second and third floor and flipped it. Swapped it. So what was on the second is now on the third. The media center on the third is now on the second.
So what is on the third then?
The health lab and allied health lab.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
I didn't see that.
Thank you, Doral.
Never mind.
I love how the outside of the box thinking. Love it. Thank you.
Doral, I thought that was a good idea for the record.
So that brings us again to new item number 10, Next meeting date, time, potential agenda items. So our next meeting date is March 20th, 7 o'clock. I'm sorry, 6 o'clock. Thank you, Dawn. We have the tabled item will be on the agenda. We will have the school building committee makeup on the agenda. And going forward, any other items that anybody wants to bring to me, please send them to me via email. Does anybody have any questions about our next meeting date or time? All right. So that brings us to 11. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? This meeting is adjourned at 7:18. Thank you.